third phase.
Welcome back. My name is Blake Cousins, and tonight we have some special guests. We'll be speaking with John.
Hello. How are you, Blake?
Hey, I'm doing good, John.
So, I want to know what's going on with all the listeners out there. We got this petition, everybody. We need your help. If we can get these 25,000 signatures by this Friday's deadline, we can force the U.S. government to respond. If we don't get 25,000, it's going to become 100,000 after this. So for all those listeners out there, just go to petitions.whitehouse.gov and sign on. It takes 25 seconds of your time.
Wow, so you're saying, John, that the deadline is actually happening this Friday, and our only chance at it for this 25,000 is going to end?
Correct. That's right. At midnight tonight. If we don't get it, it's over.
You know, I feel kind of sad about that. You know, trying to get the word out and getting those kind of signatures isn't easy to get up in 2 or 3 weeks. They almost ask the impossible. What do you say, our next guest here, Preston Dennett?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty tough. Yeah, I don't know how many signatures are there. Do either of you know so far?
Only a few thousand, not very many at all. Nothing close to what's needed.
See,
it needs over 20,000 more.
I don't understand people's apathy about this subject, because it would totally change society if UFO information was actually released. Our government is sitting on stuff that people just would not believe. Seriously.
Well, we get about 150,000 views a day on Third Phase of the Moon. And, people ask questions, why isn't the government disclosing? Why do they want to keep secrets? And we have the opportunity to get some of these answers. And then, people just really don't participate as much as we'd like.
And that's the sad thing.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who are struggling with this phenomenon, on a very personal basis. But for most people, it's not like that. UFOs, they can they don't think it really affects their lives. And I think we need to make it clear that it does. UFOs are pervasive in society in a lot of ways that people don't even recognize. And the whole fact that UFO technology is being suppressed is a perfect example. The kind of technology that should be available to us isn't, because these people are sitting on it for one reason. I think the bottom line comes down to money and power, honest. And that's what I
completely agree. We've had technology that we could have eliminated gas, use electricity only for cars. We're using internal combustion engines from 1850s, this technology. Why? We know we can do better than that, and it's all because if we had solar-powered cars, they couldn't profit off of it. And you're right, Preston, that's where it all comes down to. But there are forces in the government that obviously want this to happen because they keep leaking out information. Obviously, they're the minority of the group, but nonetheless, they're leaking some information. We just need the part of the media and, all the listeners and the viewers of Third Phase of the Moon to everybody to unite, move on, everybody to get together and do something collaboratively. Not just one person doing one thing and another doing another. Everybody needs to work together for this big goal.
Right. Exactly right. Hey, we have some people still holding on the phone, and we're going to get to you here momentarily, so just stay there. And if anybody's got any questions for the panel, we got Robert Bingham, Preston Dennett, and Dr. John Elias, famous guys in regards to UFOs, lots of knowledge here on the panel. To call in to 1-347-934-0378. We're live right now. And, Robert, what do you got to say about, what we've been talking about, the technology that's probably the government has possession, and they're not releasing it?
I believe that a select few have been profiting off the technology for the longest, and that's why they're suppressing it. Plus, also that the United States want to keep an edge. The government's going to suppress it as long as they can, because I feel that they're controlled by the corporates of the world. It's a monetary thing, and the people in power don't want to release that. They want to keep it, and they'll do whatever it takes to keep it. If they're going to have to deal with the terrestrials when sooner or later, and because we're killing the planet, and that has to stop, and it is going to stop. Just a matter of time.
A matter of time before hopefully we get some information in regards to anti-gravity. Preston, you've interviewed lots of people in the field. Do you pretty much feel in your gut that the technology is there and they already have these vehicles like George Jetson and anti-gravity that we could enjoy straight out of a Star Wars movie?
Oh yeah, I'm beyond convinced. I've talked to way too many people. One lady I talked to, who I know quite well, I've interviewed her several times. She worked out at China Lake, and she had access to some technology that she was told was taken directly from a UFO, and they took it out into the field and tested it. It was this laser beam type of thing, which was able to levitate objects, and if you changed the setting, it could, fry them or vaporize them. It was a electromagnetic beam that had several different settings that could do various things. And they went out and tested it, and some of these soldiers, they were going to, try and kill some of the mules, just blow up the mules, and this lady who I interviewed was really, really upset about that, and it caused a huge to-do. She wouldn't let them do it, and she ended up getting kicked out, actually.
I'd like to interject that I personally saw Jetson-type vehicles, and I saw them downtown L.A., and they do already have them, the terrestrials have them. I believe that the government's still, working after 50 years, they're still trying to figure out a lot of things, and but they're doing a good job at doing it. And,
I think there's a lot of stuff they still don't understand that they've gotten from this stuff, and they are leaking it into society bit by bit. The integrated circuit, fiber optics, night vision goggles. These are things that have been pointed towards having come from UFOs.
I wasn't sure if it was myself that you were talking to, Blake. Good evening. This is D. Michael in Denver.
Yes, Jim. Welcome. Go ahead. Do you have any questions?
It's such an honor to speak with you. I really appreciate what you're doing, allowing the people to see these videos. Personally, I've been deeply involved for well over 25 years, and I can say from personal experience that my sixth sense is growing and evolving, and it's largely in part due to people like you, Blake, that are publishing these videos. The people get the opportunity to develop that sixth sense and can learn how to differentiate between what is clearly an identifiable object and something that is either not of this world or in some other way supernatural. So I just want to applaud you, and I want to thank you. You really are a very welcome addition to the community.
Hey, Michael, I appreciate the words. We try over here at Third Phase to get the word out. We just received a video that's been on YouTube for a couple days now, but we try and get video that's relevant, something spectacular, something that nobody's ever seen before, and get people like you seeing these things to make up their mind of what they're looking at. Possibly a lot of these things are military, CIA drones, suppressed technology that we don't know exactly what's going on. But, having the awareness, having people get their cameras ready in case they're going to see something, and videos are constantly coming in. Michael, have you ever, captured or seen any UFOs in recent times since, watching Third Phase of the Moon?
Well, personally, my first eyewitness experience was some 20 years ago. I personally witnessed an object that looked like a 50-gallon barrel, except much larger and bright orange. Looked like painted metal floating in the sky south of the Denver area around Castle Rock. And I can tell you from personal experience that this calling upon of UFOs and this telepathic reality that prayer represents is a very, very provable subject matter. I have been able to and have witnessed the presence of what might be referred to as angelic entities. I've got a lot of information about this subject, that I could spew for hours and hours. I don't want to waste your listeners' time or your guests. They seem very knowledgeable, and I will be very pleased to listen. I'm just so honored to be able to make contact with you, Blake. I think that we need this movement. I'm sorry to hear that we're so short on the signatures on the petition. I don't think there's much we can do in a short amount of time. But the node bends the stalk, and in times where we feel discouraged, all we need to do is raise our heads to the heavens, witness the poem of God's creation, and realize that all vicissitudes will come to pass. All of these things will be available to us as time goes by, but I would strongly urge at least the listeners who are people of faith to closely examine the historical reality and what we know. Throughout history, there have been examples of men that can literally command the elements. Moses, for example, was described as parting the Red Sea with the use of a serpent staff. Types of events, whether considered religious metaphor or otherwise, should be carefully and very closely examined before really going deeply into the subject matter, because there are so many potentialities that it can be very, very difficult and overwhelming. It takes a very, very long time for that sixth sense.
Hey, exactly, sixth sense, and having that power to know possibly entities around, special beings, higher beings. Speaking of angels, Robert Bingham is going to be summoning UFOs on February 10th. I want to get to his theory on angels and what he thinks these entities are that are being captured on film over Los Angeles. But I want to go to caller 201. Welcome to Third Phase Moon. If you have any questions, or what do you think about government suppression of technology?
Yeah, how you doing, Blake? It's Mark. I've been with the show since the beginning, and I would like to say, as an amateur investigative mythologist and amateur ufologist, that there is a lot of suppressed technology, such as what Edward Fauché said in 1998, where the UFO tech actually had some kind of like quasi crystals, sort of like what you see in Stargate, where they powered the ancient spaceships and stuff like that, I guess. And that the more authentic alien crafts are really only seen in infrared. The ones that we see with our visual spectrum are actually either could be holograms, and they are, like a couple of you guys just said, that they are reverse engineered craft, dating back all the way back when the Nazis had that special super weapon.
Speaking of the super weapon and holographic images, Robert, do you think that it's possible that that's what you're seeing over there in Los Angeles? Technology that the government.
Definitely no. Just to give you an example, today I had bought a camera yesterday, and I went out to take the trash out, and I said telepathically, I said, "Show me so I can use my camera." And as soon as I said that and looked up, they were there. So I don't think the government has that capability. But like I've been saying, these are angels, and a lot of people would try to say that they're demons or whatever. I don't associate them with demons. I have a discernment that they are good angels, and they're angels to me. That's what I've been saying during all my events. And but it takes a while before you can get that ability. It just don't happen overnight. But I've been doing this for almost 13 years, and I only went public 10 months ago, Blake, when we first did that Skype.
So about 10 months ago, Robert, wanted to know how he was going to go public. He was kind of concerned. He wanted to go through the right avenue of going public, and honestly, I said, Robert, I think Third Phase of Moon is a place to go if you want to get the word out. And after that, Robert's been seen around the world. Millions of people have watched the videos. Hundreds of people have shown up on location, and it's absolutely incredible. And Preston Dennett's been working for many years in the subject matter of UFOs. What are you going to be working on next?
Oh, currently interviewing a lot of people who've had very close encounters and putting together a book about that. So I think that's going to be really exciting. I interviewed a gentleman recently who is a fireman, and he's just recently had a really interesting encounter in his home in the suburbs, in which these ETs kind of just dropped through the ceiling, and actually he woke up floating over his bed, and was wondering what the hell was going on, could not figure it out until this light filled the room and these ETs dropped through the ceiling. So he was very frightened by the whole experience, actually, and later had another visitation which wasn't nearly as frightening, in which he asked them, "Why do you keep taking me?" And they did not answer. But it's an interesting case, and one of many that I'm hoping to include in this book that I'm putting together, yeah.
Well, we look forward to the books in the future. Dr. John Elias, what do you think of getting together with Preston Dennett and getting a Third Phase of Moon book with all the sightings we have, the testimony from eyewitnesses from around the world, the Skype interviews we've done?
That's definitely a good possibility for a future project, because Preston is a wealth of information. He has been investigating for more than 2 decades. He actually has 15 books, and like he said, he's working on this one and another one of UFOs over Nevada, I believe. Was that correct, Preston?
That's right. That should be coming out soon.
Yeah, so that's 17. There we go. It'll be 17 in a matter of time. And I actually wanted to use this time to make a segue to what Preston and I were talking about prior to the show. Now, what I heard recently is a very interesting saying or quote. We're spending all this money on making this international space station, and we keep sending up these parts and people and all this stuff, yet we went to the moon in the early or late 60s, early 70s, and why would we waste time to build a base in a place that has no resources when we could have built something on the moon that has natural resources that we could have used? Obviously, there had to have been something to keep us from coming back to the moon, and there's a lot of theories out there that say that we were told, unequivocally to stay away from the aliens that inhabit the moon on bases. And Preston knows a lot about the moon, and I wanted to take this conversation with regards to that. Preston, can you tell us a little bit about this? Bases
sure,
on the moon and all that.
Yeah, I looked into it because I ran into this gentleman who told me an incredible story that he was involved with the astronauts, and he was a photographer on one of the ships that picked them up, and was able to have face-to-face conversations with the astronauts, and they told him that they had seen stuff on the moon that you would not believe: alien bases, crashed UFOs, all kinds of artifacts that was just amazing. And he actually developed a lot of these photos and saw them for himself. So I'm like, this is an amazing story. I hadn't really heard much about the moon, so I did my research, and lo and behold, it was amazing. There have been UFO sightings on the moon since early history. Prominent astronomers like Herschel and Schroeder, these are famous guys, back in the 1700s and 1800s, saw lights and all kinds of stuff on the moon. And it goes on and on. The British Royal Astronomical Society asked people to call in their sightings, and they got thousands of reports of lights and strange patterns. It goes on, all the way up to the modern age when we go to the moon, right? And apparently we're followed to and from the moon by UFOs. And this was reported by Chris Kraft and other NASA insiders. And there's a lot of people who have gone on record saying that UFOs have been seen around these Apollo and Gemini craft, right? So, it goes on from there. The photos that are now coming out have you can buy of the shard is one example. These artifacts that are on the moon there is definitely something going on the moon, and I think that basically we were warned off is what it comes down to. And
we've had a special guest, Jose Escamilla, on Third Phase of Moon, and he claims that they're with color telescopes, getting super close with powerful lenses and telescopes.
I've been interested in the moon for a long time, but it wasn't until Jose exposed me to his moon rising video when I bought the DVD a number of years ago, and I've been real interested since then. And in September, I went out and bought a Celestron Nexstar 8SE telescope, and I was bent on doing high definition video. And I found a camera, a Chinese camera that worked. Matter of fact, it was the only camera that did high definition. And through a lot of experimentation, I've been able to figure out how to marry the right lens combination with the camera to get some just outstanding, breathtaking video of the moon.
Maybe there is a theory that Jose says is that when you're looking from the moon to Earth, the Earth would appear gray because through space there's a filter, and basically the same way that we're from Earth looking up in the moon, it's gray, but in actuality there's color.
Right, I think that there might be, in fact, an atmosphere on the moon. You know, the moon rocks are filled with oxygen, and there's a lot of water they're finding out now on the moon. It's officially being released, at least. So, yeah, and, you know, Fred Steckling wrote a book, We Found Alien Bases on the Moon. George Leonard wrote a book, Somebody Else is on the Moon. And there's a lot of evidence to support that there's something very intense going on there. And just to cap that off,
ask Michael about, have you ever heard of the theory of possible, atmosphere, life, ancient bases there on the moon, Michael?
No, this is Mark.
Yeah, sorry about that, Mark. Go ahead.
Actually, I wanted to talk about the moon and confirm that there is atmosphere on the moon, which is around 6,000 kilometers deep, and it's made out of an element or gas called natrium. And this was buried in one of the articles that NASA released deep into the internet. I had to had to do some digging, but that shows that, there's atmosphere. Something's definitely going on in the moon. And recently, NASA had crashed 2 satellites into the moon to prove that the moon could actually be hollow, because they can see the reverberations from crashed satellites.
Hollow moon, interesting. Have you heard about that, Preston?
Absolutely, yeah. There's official reports of that, about how the moon has rang like a bell on several occasions when it has been impacted, by our equipment.
I've heard that actually from several sources. John Lear talked about it, and Alex Collier talked about it. And, like Mark was saying, we sent up these 2 recent satellites that we crashed with cameras right behind them that crashed a few seconds later to capture the impact. Another interesting theory that Alex Collier put on, he said, a lot of his stuff is, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but nonetheless, he suggested that the moon was actually brought here from another solar system, and it's actually one giant ship. Now that's, kind of out there to think, but then again, at this point, what isn't out there to think? With these craft coming in here from distant light years and time travel and all that, it could be plausible. Even if it's a 1% chance, it could be plausible. But it makes you want to think of the possibilities of what this thing actually is.
Well, that's what I think we need to do as a people, is think, because, the government really don't appreciate free thinkers, open-minders, because they're in power. They kind of want to keep it to themselves. But let's move on to, Robert Bingham. He's going to have his event coming up here on February.
I'd like to say that these are a lot of theories, but what I'm doing is really true fact. And I don't know if I've said that I've asked them for technology. They give me the photos of the technology that they want to give me, that I asked them for, and I'm able to get things, but I'm not ready to ask them for too much more, because until I have the base to use it. And
Robert, can you tell us what you're going to be doing February 10th and what the day's going to go like, would you say?
Well, on the 10th, I'm doing a rain or shine, and we're going to get some incredible stuff. People have been saying to do it somewhere else, and so I found this very spiritual place, and I felt good. And it's in Griffith Park above Cedar Grove, above the Greek Theater. We're going to meet at the Greek Theater at between the hours of 10 and 11:30. At 11:30, we're going to walk up to the top of Cedar Grove Hill, and I'm gonna summon the UFOs and we're gonna.
What are you thinking about what Robert is doing over there, Preston, and his capabilities? And are you going to be showing up?
I'm planning to make it. I've got it written down. But yeah, I think it's great. I think the UFOs are here. There's no doubt about it, and I think they want to show themselves officially. I think they really do, but they don't want to do it in a way that's going to disrupt society. They can't just hand over the technology. We would obviously abuse it. I just don't think we're quite ready for that. But I think they're doing a policy of showing themselves bit by bit. I joined a group called CSETI, and we called down UFOs, weekend after weekend. And these are mostly lights in the sky and distant stuff like that. But a few times we had some closer-up sightings. So I think there's a day is going to come where they're going to land and we're going to be able to go on board, or at least have face-to-face type meetings.
Incredible. That's what everybody says is like, well, I'm not going to believe it until they land, in the front lawn of the White House, and maybe one of these days that might happen. John.
Well, they
John,
actually did. They flew over the White House in 1952 twice in the same week. They did, and no one believed it still, and we have photographs of that.
What we got to do is get Robert Bingham over to Washington and do that thing over there and summon him right over the White House, and that would be something. What do you say? Hey, but John, weren't you saying something right before we cut to the second half about what you're working on and a new radio show you're doing?
Yes, Preston and I are doing a radio show on Saturday. It's debuting Saturday, March 9th on Revolution Radio, which is at freedomslips.com. Freedom Slips, slipping, like slipping on the floor. Basically, it's like freedom slipping away from the hands of the public. But freedomslips.com, 2 to 4 Eastern Time, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, it'll be a 2-hour show. Saturdays, we'll be taking callers. We'll be talking about UFOs and other conspiracies and basically whatever else the listeners want to call in and talk about, similar to what you're doing.
Oh, well, I would love to, participate when you get the show up, get it up and running. And, hey, we'll invite, some special guests from our end, and I'd love to participate. Hey, Michael, are you going to show up to the event over there in Los Angeles?
No, I'm unable to make that trip, but I will obviously participate in spirit. The fact of the matter is, I think that with the WikiLeaks release of information, Bradley Manning did our planet a great service by having the photographs and the videos of Skinny Bob and J-Rod released. I think for the uninitiated, photographs like that can be easily confused as, Photoshop, whatever. But at least from my perspective, those are probably, the diminutive gray. Those are probably the most significant extraterrestrial that our country has had contact with since they were, been such close friends to us for so long.
And Michael, from what I hear, there's several different types of grays. There's the short ones. There's the short ones with the bigger eyes. There's the tall ones. Preston, how many species have visited Earth? What do you know? How many different types of grays are there?
Well, we don't know. I think that there's at least 7 or 5 to 7 major species visiting us. But as far as grays, there's definitely different types. And I'm going to say at least 3 or 4 major types, and probably a lot more than that. And there's also, a whole category that's kind of a catch-all grab bag of different types of beings. But yeah, there's definitely patterns. I mean, we know that there's the grays. We know there's praying mantis type, reptilian, Nordic. So there are certain, patterns that we do know of.
Kerry Cassidy just did a recent interview with Third Phase Moon, and the whistleblower from Project Camelot, and she was explaining that there was over 64 species of different kinds of alien beings, here on Earth, and some were good, some weren't so good, and some were trying to help out the human race, and others were in collaboration with the government.
Right. I think that there are definitely some that are in collaboration with the government, and I think what you have is kind of an umbrella of human behavior. It's the same with ETs. Some are good and some are bad.
Absolutely. I think that goes up all the way through theology. But I wanted to ask people if anyone's ever heard of that alien contact message which came in the form of a crop circle a few years ago. Basically, in the 70s, Carl Sagan prepared, what is it called? Basically a message that the computers run on with the zeros and ones, and it basically contained our DNA structure, the size of our bodies, the metric system we use. We're inhabited the third planet from the sun, and we received a message back recently which showed that we said we're carbon-based, they said they're silicon-based. They showed an extra strand of DNA, they showed that they had bigger heads and smaller bodies, and they showed that they inhabit 3 planets in the star system of Zeta Reticuli. And I think that could be one reason why there are a few different types of grays, because they're just evolving like Earthlings and Martians. Just a planet, a hop, skip, and right away, right there. And I think that's one of the theories. And obviously, there's the other theory that some of these are bio-robots, glorified robots, if you will. But I thought that was an interesting thing, that alien contact. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a very, very interesting case that it came back in the form of a crop circle, but not a circle. It was more of a rectangle, and it was identical to what Carl Sagan sent out, identical in the form of the way it was transported and received, but different where it showed the differences in the civilizations.
The whole crop circle thing really baffles me because it doesn't seem to have a super strong UFO connection. There's definitely a loose one in some cases, but most of them seem to be completely separate from UFOs. I don't know who's doing them.
The Colin Andrews says that the ones that are faked, when the branches of the wheatgrass are taken down, they're actually cracked. Supposedly the real ones, they're taken down literally 90-degree angles, but they're not cracked. They're still growing, and I think that's what differentiates, the real ones from the fake ones. However, what the real ones are coming from is, a guess as good as any at this point. But alien contact thing, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Under a microscope, if you look at these wheat stalks, you can actually see that they're little nodules, the places where the stem grows, burst, as if there's some sort of microwave heat energy. So you can prove scientifically which ones are fake and which ones are real. I think the vast majority are real.
And it's sad that no one's really taken that to the mainstream media, because what you just said right there, that science can prove the real ones from the fake ones, yet they're not doing anything about it.
Well, you look at them so closely, and like you say, on a molecular scale, that they are, there's some kind of fusion going on, some kind of, radiation, some kind of chemical reaction, something that, so like you're saying, they're not bending, but when you look at them, they're interwoven, and to do these massive crop circles overnight, on a grand scale is basically virtually impossible.
Oh, and they're so beautiful, too. They're amazing.
Well, they're definitely really pretty to look at, no doubt about it. Thank you, Preston, for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Blake. I always enjoy being on your show. I think people should keep their eyes in the skies. There's definitely stuff up there. The UFOs are not going away. I think the activity is only going to escalate, and sooner or later we are going to have official contact, open official contact, and the government is going to come clean on this. I don't think they have any choice, because, like I said, these UFOs are not going away. So hopefully we'll be ready.
Hey, thanks a lot, President. It's always a pleasure having you on the show with all the information you have over your years of experience. It's also great. And, Robert Bingham, the man who summons UFOs, I really want to thank you for joining us as well in his February 10th, event. Robert, any last words here?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that they have a federation of planets. I've seen the flag. They have 7 stars. They do have a federation. And I like to say that the crop circles, I do know what they are, and they're not. It's not done by plasma. It's done by technology, and it's done so perfectly and well that they're literally putting it out there for you to look right at it, that they do exist. And I just, this bit about energy causing it. No, it's much more than that. And what they're doing is putting blueprints out there for us to move into the next transition in order to save the planet, because the planet don't belong to us. But anyway, I'd like everybody to be there February 10th. I invite everybody. And if they are skeptics or debunkers, to be there. And all the people that want to see it, to be there, and I'll be there, and I'll greet you. And if you got questions for me, I'll talk to you and explain it to you. Thank you very much, Blake, for putting me on the show.
Hey, thank you, Robert. And I suggest everybody, believers, skeptics, definitely show up February 10th across from right there at the Griffith Park. Bring your cameras, and if you capture anything amazing, send it to us at Third Phase of the Moon. Thanks again, Robert. And Dr. John Elias, I want to, thank you for joining us, and you're coming up with your radio show. And I want to thank Michael for joining us right here at the Third Phase of the Moon show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much, Blake. The node bends the stalk, the string bridges the gap, and IBAR 330 is perfectly good evidence for any skeptical mind.
Hey, appreciate it, Michael, and, you keep in touch and have your camera ready, okay? Dr. John Elias, any last words right here at Third Phase of the Moon?
Yeah, keep up the great work at Third Phase of the Moon. I can't wait to see some more great footage, and we'll do some more great interviews. Appreciate it, John. You've worked really hard here over on Third Phase of the Moon, getting the word out, doing a lot of legwork, and, we really appreciate it. Anytime, Blake, anytime. And, get your cameras rolling. Just today we received some amazing video out of Scotland that we put out just a couple hours ago on Third Phase, and it is absolutely incredible, this Mars aircraft. Okay, so we're going to just go to break here just for a few seconds. Everybody stand by. We're going to our second half, okay? Hold on.